A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News, live here on News First. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Shahin Jurampati and these are our headlines.
Water and tear gas used to disperse university students protesting on Parliament Road. Engineering and workers' trade union accuse each other over the electricity crisis. Will the budget be passed?
අපි විරුද්ධ ඡන්ද පාවිච්චි කරන මේ
සාකච්ඡා කරන්න අපි කිසිසේත් අයවැයට පක්ෂව ඡන්ද දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ස්ථිරයි.
Police fired tear gas and water cannons at the Parliament roundabout to disperse a protest march organised by the Students' Collective of the University of Sabaragamuwa this evening.
Students were protesting against the university administration's failure to enroll 33 qualified students to the Faculty of Social Sciences and Languages at the university. The protest that commenced from the Institute of Indigenous Medicine progressed to the Parliament roundabout. Afterwards, the students attempted to proceed towards the Parliament. Bumper-to-bumper traffic was reported in Bathramulla, Rajgiriya, Polduva Junction and surrounding roads as a result of the protest.
A fire broke out at a building located on 3rd Cross Street and Main Street in Peta this evening.
The Colombo Fire Brigade said it dispatched 8 fire trucks to douse the fire. The fire was doused through a coordinated effort. The fire had broken out at a fancy goods shop.
Traffic flow along the Gumpa Lonavala Padilla main road was hampered for over 5 hours today as a result of a demonstration carried out by locals urging authorities to reconstruct a dilapidated road.
Area residents from several villages including Walhagoda, Tambiligala, Varakapitiya and Udagama took part in this protest, demanding authorities to reconstruct the road from Mariyavatta to Udagama. The protest commenced at around 9:30 a.m. The Gumpa Lonavala Padilla Road was obstructed from the Mariyavatta area due to this protest. The protesters claimed that the road in question, which is around 7 kilometers in length, had not been renovated in over 10 years.
There are massive potholes on the road. Many pregnant ladies travel on this road daily. If they cannot construct this small piece of land, how can they develop the country? In 1970, they began constructing this road. Since then, 7 governments have come to power. We are disheartened at the fact that 7 governments failed to reconstruct 7 kilometers of road.
Traffic flow along the road plying from Gumpa to Lonavala Padilla was completely disrupted owing to this protest. The situation escalated when police officers from the Gumpa police arrived at the scene.
Disrupting the traffic flow is an offence. It's not the duty of the police to construct these roads. However, we can help. We will bring the necessary officials to you. Once that is done, discuss with them and sort this out. We know this is an obstruction to the general public. Similarly, thousands of people are suffering. Ask these elders. You do not understand our plight.
Subsequently, a monk who attended the demonstration made a phone call to MinisterLakshman Kiriellas.
Hello?
Hello? මේ කිරියල්ල ඇමතුමාද කතා කරන්නේ? මම මේ කතා කරන්නේ අපි මේ නාවලපිටිය පාරේ මේ ජනතාව එකතු වෙලා අපේ මේ පාරක් හදා ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් අපි උද්ඝෝෂණයක් කරනවා. ඔබතුමාට කතා කරන්න මෙතන පොලිස් නිලධාරියක් නැහැ, ප්‍රාදේශීය ලේකම්ලා නැහැ, එක മന്ത്രി කෙනෙක් එන්නේ නැහැ මෙතනට කතා කරන්න. මොකද්ද අපි මේකට ගන්න විසඳුම? අපි නාවලපිටිය පාර ආද අරින්නේ නැහැ ඇමතුමා. ඔබතුමාලා ඒ කාලේ සල්ලි කංගවරට කෝරළේ සභාපතිතුමා කියනවා ලක්ෂ කීයක් සභාපතිතුමා 500ක් වෙන් වුණාලු. පාර හැදුවේ නැල්ලු. වෙන් වෙලා තිබිච්ච ඒවාට සල්ලි වලට මොනවා වුණාද කියලා දන්නේ නැල්ලු. හොරා කෑවද මොනවද කියලා වෙලා. මිනිස්සු 1000ක් විතර පාරට පැහැලි වෙලා මේ වෙද්දි ඇමතුමා ඔබතුමාගේ ආමතුරන්ට කොහොමද කතා කරන්නේ බලයා. ඔබතුමාගේ එතුමාගේ එතුමාගේ දක්ෂතාවය ඒක කිරියල්ල ඇමතුමාගේ ඔබතුමාගේ ඇමතීම ඔබතුමාට අපි තමයි දුන්නේ ජනත් ප්‍රසාදිනී කියලා වේල ගෞරව නාමයක් දුන්නේ අපි ඇමතුමා මහා සංඝරත්නය දුන්නේ ඒ කරන විදියට නම්බර එක ඇමතුමාගේ මේ කිරියල්ල ඇමතුමාගේ නම්බර එක එතුමා තමයි ඔය කතා කරේ එතුමා අපිට බැන වැටිච්ච එක මෙතන ඔක්කොම පරබල්ලෝ කියලා
Assistant Commissioner to the Central Province, Niluka Bulatke, also arrived at the scene of the protest.
I did not say that funds cannot be allocated. However, it should be done by the ministry. Budget debates are ongoing. That is also an issue.
These are not the issues they have. Their main issue is who the next presidential candidate is. That is why we are carrying out this struggle, for them to notice this.
Eventually, the protest ended after more than 5 hours when a written statement promising the area residents that a discussion regarding this issue will be held was issued to the protesters.
Now explaining this incident, MinisterLakshman Kiriellas issued a statement this evening. In his statement, he said if any insult or discomfort was caused to any monk or a member of the Mahasangha in his comments, as a Buddhist, he is very much saddened about it.
MinisterLakshman Kiriellas says he received the phone call amid a hectic work schedule. He said he was rather emotional in his response to an allegation made by an unidentified protester alleging the minister had skimmed off 50 million rupees. The minister states that his response was to a protester who had made a threatening phone call and not to a Buddhist monk. He adds that he only realized that the caller was a Buddhist monk after watching a news broadcast in this regard.
The vote for the third reading of the 2019 budget will take place in Parliament this Friday. These were the views expressed in the political arena.
When the country has to obtain loans next year to settle debt which is equal to the value of income generated by the state, and when government expenses are twice as much as the government income, how can the government pay the salaries of state workers? If the joint fund of the government's treasury is a negative, what will be the fate of our country's treasury? These are only dreams and they can never be achieved. This is reality. The country's debt burden will further increase, and this fact itself is sufficient as a reason to vote against this budget. We must be straightforward and sincere when opposing to those who engage in political games. We must all vote against the budget on the 5th. As the JVP, we cast our vote against the budget during the second budget vote, and our stance will remain unchanged. We will vote against the budget. This budget is of no benefit to the people. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we are against the budget. The opposition will gather for a meeting at 4 p.m. in Parliament tomorrow. The meeting will be headed by President Maithripala Sirisena and opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa. We hope to discuss matters and take a decision at the meeting. This budget includes the expenditure heads of 3 ministries that come under the purview of the President. A few technical facts must also be discussed. We are certain that we will not vote in favour of the budget. We will defeat the UNP government at any point the government is weak and vulnerable. However, the TNA on behalf of the UNP will cast their votes in favour of the budget. This is the truth.
ඔවුන්ට අවශ්‍ය ඡන්ද ප්‍රමාණය අයවැයට තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි ඇත්ත යථාර්ථය.
It has been 17 days since the public has been inconvenienced with continuous power shortages. The Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union and the Ceylon Electricity Workers Union expressed the following views in this regard. The plan to construct the power plant in Sampur was not approved for more than 1 year. The PUCSL must bear half of the responsibility for this delay, as the PUCSL was represented through several groups. Our plans include the removal of coal power plants from the system and replace them with LNG power plants. However, a poor country like ours cannot withdraw from the coal power plant system. The PUCSL, amid the presence of the President, accepted that it was the CCEM that said coal power plants will not be constructed in Sri Lanka. It was a minute from the CCEM proceedings that were used.
CCEM එකේ මිනිට් එකක් තමයි මේගොල්ලෝ පාවිච්චි කරලා තියෙන්නේ මේ අපේ ගල්ලංගුර බලාගෙන.
පරිසර හිතකාමී විදුලිය අවශ්‍යයි අපිට.
Our country needs green power. If someone is under the impression that the establishment of coal power plants or nuclear power plants will solve issues, the answer is no. It may reduce the price of power. However, there is a huge damage caused to the environment. Those who ask for more coal power plants do not love our country. There is an issue regarding the establishment of power plants as per existent power generation plans. They have failed to construct these power plants and now claim that the relevant plans had not been approved. However, these have already been approved.
අනුමත කළේ නෑ මෙතනින් අනුමත නෑ මේ අනුමත කරපුවා.
ඔක්කොම හිර වුණේ ටෙන්ඩර් මණ්ඩලේ.
මේ ජෙනරේටර් 50ක් ගෙනාවා.
50 generators were brought down. The engineer who disagreed to this decision was sent home. Only 4 to 5 of the 50 generators are functional. Similar to pumping diesel to vehicles, these generators require engine oil.
මේ ඩීසල් ගහනවා වගේ එන්ජින් ඔයිල් ගහනවා.
Firstly, we did not intend to use the generators 24/7. However, we are now compelled to do so. When we called for tenders, 18 companies had responded. 11 of the 18 were rejected due to various reasons. One bidder named Sterling and Wilson Private Limited was initially rejected. However, the tender board had selected this company once again. So are we at fault?
තමන්ගේ ජෙනරේටර්ස් කියලා දුවන්න පුළුවන් කට.
A minor loss is incurred when generators are synchronized and utilized for operations. We can bear this minor loss. This is something very simple. The secretary to the respective ministry says that there are 200 generators in the state sector. What's the purpose of a government if power cannot be generated through those 200 generators?
We did this last year. Only 6 generators worked. I think there are approximately 200 generators. The state institutions dislike using their generators continuously. They lack sufficient oil resources and 2 or 3 people must be assigned to this as well. These generators will then depreciate very fast. The blame game goes on as trade unions in the energy sector continue to point the finger at one another. Regardless of the statements made, however, it is the general public who are at the receiving end of the sufferings. We are at a time where the people of this country are in a struggle to make ends meet. And while they are thrown from the frying pan into the fire, just a few have their pockets full as a policy. This has to end. To the CEB engineers who accuse various factions, we pose the following question. 1,480 megawatt small solar applications in 2015. Dendro 80 megawatt non-conventional renewable energy, 150 megawatt mini hydro non-conventional renewable energy, 100 megawatt mini hydro power plant. Plans to add 1,015 megawatts to the system in 2017. Mana wind farm with a potential of 375 megawatts. The 90x1 megawatt solar tender. The new Uma Oya, Broadland and Murugakanda hydro power plants. Who was the cause for the delays in the constructions of these power plants and their expected targets not being reached? The country would not have been in darkness today if these had been implemented at the very least. For the sake of the people, the mafia of devouring commissions in the form of trade union actions has to be brought to an end. There have been instances in the world's history where such bold decisions were taken. On the 5th of August 1981, following the PATCO workers' refusal to return to work, US President Ronald Reagan fired the 11,345 striking air traffic controllers who had ignored the order and banned them from federal service for life. In 1984-85, UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher followed the same course of action against a trade union campaign launched by coal miners in a bid to protect her country's economy. The prime example in Asia is how Singapore's first ever Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew took on a group of air traffic controllers on strike.
I can tell you that when I met the SIA pilots
I didn't meet them on TV. I met them face to face, 5 feet across the table, so they can see me and see whether I'm still vigorous, able to campaign and take them on. And I offered them 2 choices. Either you argue, you stop this intimidation, ruining his reputation, millions of dollars worth of advertisements and sales. I gave them a choice. Continue this, and I will, by every means at my disposal, teach you and get the people of Singapore, help me teach you a lesson you won't forget. And I'm prepared to start all over again, or stop it.
The people believe the time is upon the country to take similar measures against the energy mafia, which has today left the country in darkness for their own personal gain at the expense of the people's sufferings. This is a scam. The minister wants a bigger slice of the pie. The CEB employees are also siding with the most favorable option. The 2 parties are blaming each other, and the engineers are carrying out pujas, pleading for it to rain. When you try to purchase power in a hurry, the cost is more. Last year's loss is 104 billion. It is almost the amount which could have been allocated to the Education Ministry. That money was wasted by the CEB. When they allocate money to the CEB from the Treasury, one part of it goes to the CEB, while the other goes to either the minister or officials of the CEB. That is a scam. They don't have to purchase power for 30 rupees. There are small-scale generators in the country, and a British company called Agrico has brought power for 4 rupees per unit, but we sold it at 30 rupees. Who pays for these? Is it Karunanayaka or Wickramasinghe or the engineers of the CEB? No, it is the people of our nation. Parliamentarian Vimal Veerawangsa has raised concerns as to why an international agency is housed within the Prime Ministerial Office complex.
I say this with much responsibility. There is no corporate branch of Millennium Challenge Corporation or any other American company at Temple Trees. You are just shouting to gain media attention.
Now, as MP Vimal Veerawangsa claimed in Parliament, he then produced a letter substantiating his claim. Let's have a look.
Minister Sagala Ratnayaka, I will prove this today and you must resign from your position. I have found a letter with the heading of the Prime Minister's office. This letter was created on the 15th of February 2019 and was forwarded to W.H. Karunaratne, the Secretary of the Ministry of Land and Parliamentary Reforms. R. Sirivardhana, the National Consultant Coordinator at the Sri Lankan office of Millennium Challenge Corporation, has signed the respective document. The address stated in the letter is 2nd floor, New Building, North Wing, Temple Trees, Colombo 3. What do you have to say now, Minister Sagala Ratnayaka?
First of all, a very good evening to you joining us from home. Now let's start off with a look at this statement and the what was produced, the letter that was produced by MP Vimal Veerawangsa. Now, the MCC, or the Millennium Challenge Corporation, is a US government agency that helps lead the fight against global poverty. However, in Sri Lanka, they state that their involvement is in the transportation and land sector. Now, the US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena B. Teplitz, last month is reported to have said that the MCC will focus on certain issues connected with the transportation as well as roads and land registrations in Sri Lanka. Now, there was no elaborations on the specifics, however. In a different article published by the MCC Sri Lanka on the 28th of February 2019, it mentions that a delegation from the United States government's Millennium Challenge Corporation, led by Managing Director for Europe, Asia Pacific and Latin America, Caroline Nguyen, and Managing Director for Selection, Eligibility and Policy Performance, Daniel Barnes, arrived in Sri Lanka. Now, according to this particular article, the proposed MCC Sri Lanka Compact is designed to spur economic growth and would invest in projects in the transport and land sectors. Now, as you can see, this is the Sri Lanka proposed compact project. But to understand the issue, let's go
back to the 28th of October. Let's take a step back and go back to the 28th of October 2018, where President Maithripala Sirisena gave the nation his reasons as to why he sacked Ranil Wickremesinghe from his prime ministerial position.
Another is the Land Ordinance Special Act, which was presented to Cabinet last week. Then there was the paper on establishing a land bank. I strongly protested and postponed those Cabinet papers. The majority of Cabinet ministers were against these proposals. If the last week's Land Ordinance Special Act was passed by the Cabinet and then by the Parliament, all the lands of our motherland could be brought outright by foreigners without any difficulty.
Now, President Maithripala Sirisena is not alone in his concern for the alienation of land in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's third executive president, Ranasinghe Premadasa, also expressed his concerns about any attempt to usurp ownership of lands. Now, His Excellency had this to say. He said, however far, however close, or however powerful any nation may be, it has no right to aspire to control other nations. Now, News First is in search of several answers that the public wishes to be informed of. First of all, what is this initiative? Has it been passed in Parliament? The concerns are being raised because of the blatant falsehood, most recently in the terms of the Hambantota oil refinery, which is the most recent example. Almost all the details have turned out to be pie in the sky. Now, the USA is unlikely of entering any territory unless lawfully invited by a particular parliament. Is this unpatriotic behavior all about the greed to stay in power? And is this why our leaders play such a dynamic role in alienating our land, thus betraying our nation? The interest by the MCC, or the Millennium Challenge Corporation, becomes questionable when taking a look at the track record of our current government. Public trust and public funds have been gravely mishandled through the infamous bond scam, and instances where land that belongs to our very own motherland and our country have been a common handout to countries that bring in cloak and dagger investments, as recently we witnessed through the Hambantota oil refinery project. Now, the question remains as to why Minister Sagala Ratnayaka openly lied in Parliament regarding the location of the local MCC office. Finally, the ministers, by virtue of being in the cabinet, do not enjoy any right to alienate our lands without following the due process. Sri Lanka is a non-aligned nation. That is stated in our national foreign policy. All other nations interested in working with Sri Lanka should respect that tradition, and most of all, our own leaders should not sell our nation for greed and hunger to hold on to power. On the 21st of June 1990, Nelson Mandela arrived at Arundel Hall at the City College of New York for a town hall meeting anchored by Ted Koppel of ABC News' Koppel Report. Mandela was grilled during the interview, in which he was accused of playing favorites to America's rivals. However, Mandela's answer brought light to the inception of politics and the United States' thirst for ultimate power. Take a look.
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. We have our own struggle, which we are conducting. We are grateful to the world for supporting our struggle. But nevertheless, we are an independent organization with its own policy. Our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle.
The national pledge, the Bak Mahaduruma, to eradicate the drug menace to build a drug-free country took place this morning. The main event of the Drug Prevention National Programme, titled Matin Nidahas Ratak, was held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena at Independence Square.
The country as one took a pledge to eradicate the drug menace. The first pledge was taken by state officials. Students too took part in the Bak Mahaduruma in building a country free of drugs. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, ministers, parliamentarians and members of the opposition took part in the program to eradicate drugs and work towards a prosperous Sri Lanka. A number of pledging programs were held in schools, government offices and other places island-wide in line with the Bak Maha Pledge. On a separate note, in line with the Bak Maha Pledge, the Colombo Foundation Institute organized a felicitation ceremony for the officers who were involved in the drug raids and operations.
Pradeep Amirthanayagam has been appointed as the Deputy Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Mr. Amirthanayagam is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing, UK, and a reputed advertising and media personality in Sri Lanka with over 30 years' experience in the fields of journalism, advertising and administration.
Actually, I'm delighted to have been entrusted with this responsibility, something that I like to do, and working alongside the Honourable Prime Minister and the Chief of Staff, the Honourable Sagala Ratnayaka, will be something that I will look forward to do. With my background in marketing and advertising as a professional for the last 30 years, and also as a news anchor for all the 3 state channels, the challenge before me now is to implement and carry out the functions of the Prime Minister's office.
German champions of mentalism, magicians of the year, world champions of mentalism, runners-up of America's Got Talent Season 11, the Clairvoyance, will be performing live tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. at the Nelumpokuna Mahinda Rajapaksa Theatre for the first time in Sri Lanka. The much-awaited event is organised by SoftLogic Life, and MTV and NBC are the exclusive media partners of the event.
Magicians of the Year, Master Illusionist, and the runners-up at the tremendous America's Got Talent, performing live tomorrow at the Nelumpokuna Mahinda Rajapaksa Theatre at 7:30 p.m. Present you the Clairvoyance. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Hello.
So what can the crowd expect? Any sneak peek on tomorrow's show?
Well, I think most of the people know us from America's Got Talent, so they saw us on YouTube, TV. Tommy and myself, we will be a lot in the audience. We will talk a lot with the people, we'll bring people up on stage.
Right.
So a lot of people will have the opportunity to be part of the magic. It's always interesting how people react and what people will bring to the show, what people are thinking. So it's going to be very nice.
So what do you really expect from the Sri Lankan audience tomorrow?
We will involve everybody in the theatre. So all together we'll create a very magical moment. So we're just looking forward to tomorrow's show because it will be a clairvoyant experience, a lot of fun for the whole family, and we're looking forward to the Clairvoyance live for the first time, full-length show in Asia, in Sri Lanka, tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow, we can't wait.
Well, Shine, before we go, I'll ask you a question. Have you ever been subjected to a mentalism, mentalists, or have them practice on you?
So far, no, and I hope not to be in the future as well. And I know you have been.
It has, yeah, I definitely have, and it's quite an intriguing experience.
I remember being there, Mahina, some classified information came out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I hope you do catch the Clairvoyance tomorrow at the Nelumpokuna Theatre. From us at the Newsfirst desk, we wish you a very pleasant evening. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Shine Rampati. Good night and do take care.